Hey everyone! Today we're jumping into one of the most gut-wrenching dilemmas a leader can possibly face, that terrible clash between professional duty and personal love. Our guide for this is an incredible, ancient story of a king, a father, and a choice, an absolutely impossible choice that we're calling the leader's lament.
Welcome back to another Doer's Digest. I'm so glad you're here. You know what we do? We take these powerful, timeless stories and we pull out the practical wisdom you can actually use today, tomorrow, whenever you're facing your own big challenges. All right, let's just dive right into the deep end, shall we? Here's the question that frames our whole conversation today. Think about this. Who's the greater leader? The king who saves his nation but has to lose his son to do it, or the one who spares his rebel son and loses the entire nation in the process? I mean, really, put yourself in those shoes for a second. What on earth do you do? And that question, that impossible choice, leads us right into our first section. We're digging into our anchor text for this one, 2 Samuel chapter 18. Now I know, this story is thousands of years old, but I promise you it speaks so directly to that painful tug of war between duty and love that pretty much every leader feels at some point. And here's that conflict laid out plain as day. You've got these two sides of the same man. On one hand, you have David the king. He's thinking about duty, about justice, about keeping the whole kingdom from falling apart. But then, there's David the father. And his world is about love, mercy, and this just crippling personal grief. The scholar Walter Brueggemann really nails it when he says the story makes us feel this split, this fracture right down the middle, just like David did.
But here's the thing. Before David's heart gets torn apart, his mind is incredibly clear. And this brings us to section 2, structure before the struggle. Because even in the middle of all this chaos, David gives us a blueprint for how to prepare for that inevitable collision of our responsibilities.
So check this out. This is David's crisis playbook, and it is brilliant. First thing he does, he doesn't try to be the lone hero. Nope, he appoints a leadership team of 3. He's building a team, not a monument to himself. Then he splits up his forces. Why? For resilience, for redundancy. Smart. And third, and you cannot miss this, he humbly listens to his people. They tell him, King, you need to stay back for the good of everyone. And he actually does it. What a masterclass in building a structure that can survive the storm.
So all that brilliant strategic planning is in place. But now we get to the heart of the conflict. Section 3, when duty and love collide. Because in a single moment, David's personal feelings as a father bubble up and he issues one final, conflicting command.
He tells his commanders, "Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom." And the text makes it crystal clear the entire army heard him say this. The father's private plea goes public, creating this massive conflict of interest right there on the battlefield. The king wants victory, sure, but the father wants mercy for the very rebel they're about to fight.
So David gives this command, but how do his people handle it? You see 2 totally different reactions. First, you've got this unnamed soldier. He's motivated by pure integrity. He finds Absalom trapped, totally vulnerable. There's even a bounty on his head, but he walks away. Why? Because the king said so. He chose obedience. Then you have Commander Joab. He's not thinking about the king's feelings, he's thinking about the kingdom. He is all pragmatism. He sees Absalom and he ends the civil war right then and there. He saves the nation, but he directly disobeys his king's deepest wish. Wow, 2 men, 2 different motivations, 2 incredibly heavy outcomes.
And right in the middle of all this action, the story gives us this incredible moment of what you might call poetic justice. Absalom, a guy famous for his charisma and especially his glorious hair, which was a symbol of his pride, well, he's defeated when that very hair gets caught in a tree. His pride becomes his snare. It's just a stark, unforgettable reminder that pride really does come before a fall.
Okay, so the battle is over, but the story is far from it. Now we shift to the emotional aftermath. In section 4, the weight of the message. And the race of the messengers to bring the news back to David becomes this powerful metaphor for how we communicate hard, painful truths.
So the messengers are running back, and when they finally get there, David has just one question. One. And it tells you everything you need to know about where his heart is. He doesn't ask, did we win? He doesn't ask, how many men did we lose? He just asks, is the young man Absalom safe? In that supposed moment of triumph, all the king's stuff just falls away. He's just a father, desperate for news about his son.
And when he finally gets the tragic news, his grief is just overwhelming. This cry is one of the most raw and poignant laments you'll ever read. He repeats, "my son," 5 times.
It's the sound of a completely broken heart, just wishing he could have been the one to die instead.
But is there any hope to be found here in all this pain? Well, that brings us to our final section, resolution in the lament. Because that desperate cry from a father's broken heart actually points us toward a deeper and, an ultimate resolution. You see, David longed to be a substitute for his rebellious son, but he couldn't. He couldn't pay for Absalom's rebellion and save the kingdom. The story just aches for a king who can do both, a king who can satisfy justice and extend mercy at the same time. And this longing, this deep ache in the story, is ultimately fulfilled in the great Son of David, Jesus Christ, who dies in our place, perfectly bringing justice and mercy together.
Okay, so after going through all of that, what's the takeaway? What do we as doers pull from this? Here are the big ones. First, build teams, not heroes. David knew he couldn't do it alone. Second, integrity beats incentives. That soldier showed us what true character looks like. Third, truth travels best with tears. When you have hard news, deliver it with real compassion. Fourth, context is a providence, not an accident. God is at work in our situations. And finally, when love and law collide, and they will, run to the cross. That's where the ultimate answer is found.
So let's just take a moment and close with a prayer. Lord, grant us the wisdom to lead with structure, the integrity to act when pressured, and the compassion to speak hard truths with tears. Help us navigate the tension between justice and mercy, and in all things, point us to the cross where they perfectly meet. Amen.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us for this Doer's Digest. I really hope it was helpful. If it was, you know what to do. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you then.